토요일날 아침 5시 47분입니다. 어제 날짜 뉴욕타임즈를 슬슬 거충거충 한번 듣겠습니다. Being a girlfriend, a wife and a mother, Molly Roden Winter looks back on an open marriage in her first book, a memoir of open marriage. I thought I was going on a big sexual adventure, and it was going to be super exciting, and it was, until it wasn't. Winter grew up in Evanston, Illinois, and was in her early 20s when she met Stewart Winter, the man she would marry. He made her laugh and was passionate about his work, composing music for TV shows and movies. All my reservations, to be perfectly honest, are because I'm being selfish, wondering, how is this going to make me look? He said. A Canadian short story master, book review, Burn Man, selected stories. Later, he's recovering with the help of pharmaceutical methadone. Jarman's narrative approach is largely non-linear and impressionistic, collaging bits of Americana and Canadiana into near surreal visions, insects that crash at the screen, happening tragically into their multi-hued harbor. Culture, a love letter to storytellers of black folklore. Eric Berryman injects voices from the past into a multi-sensory stage work. It's a wonderful meeting of his youthful energy and enthusiasm with this folkloric material. He's a traditionalist. Berryman, 35, was raised in Baltimore by his mother and drawn to performing at an early age. When trailers hit mute on the musical, marketing for Mean Girls, The Color Purple, and Wonka, Skimson songs. A fine exception is 2020's Roald Dahl's Matilda, the musical. This is the problem of most contemporary musicals, a distrust of the form or reluctance to commit to the wonder and the fantasy that the musical can provide. Tiny houses built on lofty goals. An experiment to address homelessness in the U.S. is taking shape in Texas. The project has grown into a sprawling community that Austin is turning to as a source of affordable housing. Everyone at the village pays rent, which averages about $385,000 a month. The tiny homes that make up 2/3 of the dwellings go for less rent but have no indoor plumbing. Sports. hopes rising, buoyed by a rookie quarterback. C.J. Stroud made history when he steered Houston to victory over Cleveland. I think that he's going to be the best of all time, like he truly has the ability to be that way. The run defense, meanwhile, held the Browns to 56 rushing yards as Cleveland was shut out in the second half. Should it be seen red over the Red Sea? It's a major choke point. But some perspective is in order. There are various ways to show this broadening. One way is to compare the rate of inflation as measured by the personal consumption expenditure deflator, which the Fed prefers to the CPI, to the trimmed mean estimate produced by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, which exclude extreme price movement. What Trump voters get about the economy, the old soul that Mussolini got the trains to run on time should not be understood as an endorsement. Why is Donald Trump continuing to do so well with the voters? As unpalatable as a second Trump term would be, many pundits who tackle this question have ignored the striking fact. The typical household's living standard improved during the 3 Trump years before the pandemic. Under President Biden, Americans have struggled to keep even with inflation. Mr. Trump's huge personal negatives, his mean-spirited personality, his toting to dictators and the shunning of American allies, and his unpardonable effort to steal an election should more than upset his economic record. The old soul that Mussolini got the trains to run on time should not be understood as an endorsement. But it is one thing to laud Mr. Trump and hope for his defeat. It won't matter if Hillary wins in New Hampshire. Her plan coming out of Iowa is a classic underdog strategy. Use strong early results to upend expectation in the contest to come, reshaping the dynamic of the race, one upset victory at a time. So the thinking goes, her solid enough performance in Iowa will propel her higher in New Hampshire, where she holds a strong second place in the polls. Trump connects with Republicans in a way that she can't master. Martin Luther King wasn't a lone messiah. He built a movement more collaboratively than history gives him credit for. It was a fear made flesh by the first wave of freedom ride in the spring of 1961. But an instant that May in a Montgomery church helped to reassert King's moral leadership. The charges against Israel are immoral. A house destroyed by Hamas in Kibbutz, Be'eri, Israel. The abomination of anti-Semitism, he warned, has been given the appearance of international sanction. Maybe the ICJ will make a similar mistake. If so, the shame and the disgrace will rest with the accusers, not the accused. Seeing red over the Red Sea. This churn meant that there were widespread temporary shortages of workers and the things workers produced, which drove inflation up. Inflation then plunged as the economy settled down. Is New Hampshire the war bust? Favorable demographics should help the Nikki Haley's efforts to rebound from Iowa. Former President Donald J. Trump's resounding victory in Iowa significantly raised the stakes of next week's New Hampshire primary for Nikki Haley and the increasingly desperate contingent of Republicans who want to move on from Mr. Trump. While Iowa was largely a foregone conclusion at the top, with a spirited battle for second place only, a small but ever-narrowing path still exists for Ms. Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, to beat Mr. Trump in New Hampshire. It relies heavily on tens of thousands of independent voters expected to participate in the Republican primary. 343,000, roughly the number of registered independent voters in New Hampshire, a block that Nikki Haley hopes to win. Lurking behind China's growth. About 6,000 eateries closed in Shanghai during the pandemic, but another 7,500 have opened in the past year. Households kept a close watch on spending. Restaurateurs saw drops in average tips, and many factories ran at half the capacity. Biden camp would cautiously prepare a rematch. Democrats consider Trump the Republican who may give them their best chance. To be clear, no one in President Biden's White House would ever root for Donald J. Trump to a person they consider an existential threat to the United States. But as they watched Mr. Trump open the contest for the Republican presidential nomination with a romp through Iowa, they also saw something else, a pathway to a second term. Mr. Biden's best chance of winning re-election in the fall, in their view, is a rematch against Mr. Trump. The former president is so toxic, so polarizing, that his presence on the November ballot, as Mr. Biden's advisors see it, would be the most powerful incentive possible to lure disaffected Democrats and independents back into the camp of the poll-challenged president. Trump's grip on national psyche gains new strength. Trump would be the Republican nominee again in 2024, said David, who was a top advisor to President Barack Obama. Once again, he's the federal genius for shaping a story of victimhood, and commanding his base was underestimated. Mr. Trump, of course, did not have to speak much to keep his base with him, and as a candidate over the past year, the more he talked about 91 criminal charges against him, the more Republicans returned to him. The more Trump talked about 91 criminal charges against him, the more Republicans returned to him. Now he said, "They are not laughing so much, I'll tell you." The era of peak TV appears to be over. Never-ending supply of new programming may finally dwindle. Yeah, we can now depart the stage. To wit, the Hulu recently ordered a project from the star producer Ryan that will chronicle an all-female divorce legal form. Drama on and off the course. Last year was a classic battle between Rory and Patrick. Women working part-time can still save for retirement. There are ways to put aside money, but doing so isn't easy, financial advisors say. It's very difficult to save for retirement when you feel like you are working for pocket change. You have to be diligent saver and properly set up automatic contribution so you never see that money before it gets invested for your future, she said. AARP research has found that Americans are 20 times more likely to save for retirement if contributions are taken from a paycheck automatically. It can be powerful when you show them the math and what they could save when you extended it out for a month, 6 months, even 12 months, Ms. G said. Fixing the crisis of immigration in America, reducing a court backlog would cut the number of new arrivals in legal limbo. The recent surge of migrants at America's southern border, which reached a high in December, has at long last brought the Democrats and the Republicans closer to agreement on one thing: the need for immediate attention to our broken immigration system. What happened to migrants who crossed the southern border last year? Attempted crossings at the U.S. southern border in 2023, 3.1 million. Next, we need to tighten the asylum criteria.